Hello, 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 my friends in Sasquatch Land. It has been a while, but Discover Sasquatch is back once again. Hope everyone has been well. I've missed the show. Believe me, I would have been back a lot sooner if I didn't have three eye surgeries in a couple months. So I missed all of you guys. I missed Bigfoot Lake and BF Bud and Miss Diane Fowler and Blue Eyed Northern, and great to see everybody. Mr. Alfred Santoriga is here tonight, and boots on the ground with Barb. I really did miss all you guys, and I figured first show back, I really brought a guy that you're all gonna love. This guest. I got the chance to talk to him last night for a little while before we like I always do, and just an all around nice guy. I mean, he's just. And you'll know right off the bat he's a nice guy, and once he starts talking and telling you his story. But I think this is the first time, I was telling him before the show tonight, that I went from interviewing someone that was paranormal, then went to cryptid, then went to paranormal, and then to cryptid and paranormal, and he's all three now. And he started off just like I did, and a lot of us do now, is starting off at flesh and blood, and now is end up thinking something else is up. So it's nice to see everybody tonight, and I'm glad to see that you guys took the time out of your night to spend with us tonight. And PJ Arkansas, hello, how are you? We have new friends, old friends, and so without further ado. Now, I hope I get his name right, because I had to ask him how to pronounce it before the show. I've been trying. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jay Bachochin. Hello,
right.
my friend.
Hey, how you doing, Chris? Thanks for having me on. And you did get it right. So
I got it right.
It's good. It's good.
That's sweet. That's sweet. That's sweet. So one thing I forgot to tell you guys before the show, we are going to be giving away a copy of Finding Jay and Beyond the Kettle. So you got to stay tuned to the end of the show, get the secret passwords, and then Jay's son is going to draw the winner, and you're going to film it. And the next time we air it, we're going to show whoever wins the set of what, they're Blu-rays, right? Blu-ray discs.
Yeah, yep, they're Blu-rays, yes.
Yeah, so we're going to give those away. So stay to the end of the show. So I gave away a little bit so far. So tell everybody how what got you into, how you basically stumbled into cryptids. How did you get to that point?
Yeah, you know what? If I wanted to really date myself, I grew up watching the creature features, the old black and white Frankenstein, Creature from the Black Lagoon. All those really cool. I've always had that fascination with not just the paranormal, but the supernatural. And my first love, because I actually had a sighting with my family, was UFOs back in 1978. And, to this day, still very hard to determine exactly what that was. But because my grandfather, God bless his soul, he was in the early chapters of MUFON in Chicago. So me and him really connected. He was like a Carl Kochek or a Fox Mulder, back in the day. So I've always had that, the need to want to know what the truth is. And that's been pretty much throughout my life. Now, fast forward into the early 2000s, when the only show that was on TV for ghosts was TAPS, Ghost Hunters. That was it. It's not saturated like today. And I was really drawn into that because it seemed so real. Of course, we know that TV is for entertainment only, but the stuff still seemed so real. So after mine and my wife's East Coast honeymoon in October, it was the East Coast. We went through Salem during Halloween. It was awesome. Actually did a ghost tour, and that really sparked me to go, you know what? Let's really find out what's out here, paranormal wise. And when we got back, we kind of formed a husband and wife team called the Wisconsin Paranormal Investigators. We hunt the truth, right? We're going to go out, started out in graveyards, got a website going in 2008, started doing residents and some buildings, and then some of that what I call pay and plays now, like Ohio State Reformatory. And the stuff was real, but we just kept spinning around about what a ghost was. And I guess that's always been my problem, because I always step outside and think outside the box. I mean, they say it's somebody who passed on, very well could be, but I came up with so many different theories of time shifts or parallel universes, and it just got to a point where we just kept spinning and spinning and spinning, and it was always just Patrick Swayze or Casper. And as far as the cryptids, I saw the Mysterious Monsters at the movie theater back in the late 70s, and so I did see the Patterson Gimlin film. And I remember even being, I think, 11, 12 years old, I was looking and I'm like, it's just a dude in a suit. I mean, that's where I came to. I could believe in a werewolf, or a lake monsters like Loch Ness Monster. But I'm like, no, as far as these cryptids, at least Bigfoot to me was off my radar. I was focusing on ghosts, UFOs, and ghosts, right? And because where I live, I'm about a 15-minute drive from my house, from my driveway to Bray Road in Elkhorn, Wisconsin. So I started to really get a little fascinated with maybe doing some legend tripping and driving Bray Road to hopefully capture what the beast would be. There's been a lot of sightings out there. Linda Godfrey coined the term Beast of Bray Road back in 2010, 2011, when she was working for Lake Geneva Gazette. And that there was, is there a possibility? There's so many, her books, there were so many encounters. And after friending Linda in 2011, just hearing what she had to say and reading her books, I'm like, there's got to be something to this cryptids, or at least the Beast of Bray Road. Again, Bigfoot was not even on my radar. It was all about, a 7-foot bipedal werewolf walking around on Bray Road. And after doing that for a good year, we would start to venture out further outside of the Elkhorn area, because we figured it wasn't just isolated to one road. And we ended up in the Kettle Moraine in 2013. At this point, we went out there looking for the Bray Road Beast. And as we're out there at night, there's 4 of us at 9:00 at night in October. It was a cool kind of walk with our infrared cameras. And I heard something that sounded like a cross between a monkey and a person. And I guess it wasn't like a person imitating a monkey sound, but it was very odd. And I was able to capture a little bit, one clip of that. That's actually my first film that really got me hooked, of saying, well, wait a minute, that didn't sound like a werewolf. That sounded like a primate or simian. I'm like, wow, what if there is something to this Bigfoot thing, because after that night, the 4 of us all went home, got online, got onto the animal soundboards of the indigenous animals in Southeast Wisconsin, and we could not find a match. And you'd have to go to each animal, each bird, every species, nocturnal or during the day, and we could not find a match. So that was like, boom, I'm going to go back out there again. I'm here to hunt the truth. I didn't say I believed in Bigfoot. In fact, when people are saying, what are you doing out there, Jay? I'm like, I'm looking for a woods beast. I wouldn't even say Bigfoot or Sasquatch, because that was the butt end of every joke. You say Bigfoot, you might as well say unicorn or leprechaun, which they're next, by the way. But with that, I just kept going out into those same areas. And that's where, again, in my first film, is where I come across these huge 17.5 by 6-inch footprints that were coming down the Kettle, and they were a 53-inch from toe to heel. And that just kind of blew me away, because there was no drag mark. Now, we were in 1.5, 2 foot drifts of snow, because it snowed that morning. We were out in the afternoon, and in fact, it was still snowing when we were out there that we came across them. So they had to have been fresh, because within an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours possibly, those prints would have been gone, or at least all filled into where you wouldn't be able to tell what they were. And that there was, to me, the catalyst that kept me going back out, of saying, I never believed in Bigfoot. Bigfoot doesn't exist. Where's the body? And all the bodies that are found, and by Rick Dyer or whatever, where they're stuffing fish guts and saying, hey, charging money to see a Bigfoot, back in 2007. No one's ever come up with anything like that. So that was my catapult from the paranormal then into Bigfoot that we know today. That's my long answer.
Right. So you were an investigator to start off. Did you bring any tools with you that, or how would I? Well, let me word it different. I'm sorry, I'm a little rusty, so questions are going to come out a little stumbly, but I'll get back in the swing. So you're already an investigator. Now you've been introduced to the Bigfoot. You're seeing the tracks. You know there's something that's living out in the woods. You're using certain instruments that you use in your paranormal activities. Are these all sitting on the shelves now, or are you bringing any of this equipment with you on your first investigations?
Going out there, it was from ghosts, and all I had was K2 EMF meters, everything I'd use for a ghost investigation, and I put those on the shelf. And I went out, somebody who's going to be an outdoorsman. I started out wearing, trying to find camo to wear, because I was in the woods, and that's what woodsmen do when they hunt. They get into camo and try to find the necessary safety measures while you're out there, like I have a 21-inch machete, kind of a Rambo survival knife, bear spray, and stuff like that. But I did bring my audio recorder, like I would try to capture an EVP. But other than that, everything was just, mainly for the woods. And that's kind of how I started. Now, of course, when you're watching it, you're seeing, finding Bigfoot, we're influenced by going out, knocking on trees, giving whoops, trying to stir it up. I always say, like the Zach Baggins. Sorry, I want to offend anybody who's a big Ghost Adventurer fan, but to where this is too slow. There's nothing going on. Let's stir up some business. And I kind of started out that way, but it's not where I am today. I'm far from that. Especially like we were talking about the equipment, bringing different pieces of equipment out there. I mean, in fact, when was it? Last week, I was out with a couple people, and I didn't have any of those tools, but they still do ghost investigation. Thank you, Jackie. And so she brought out her EMF, and we were trying to get some readings, more so on this one path where I had this orb of light following me the previous weekend. And it was really quite fascinating. You want me to jump ahead and tell you that quick story? This was just 2 weeks ago. I always do the leapfrog technique, and that's where if you have 3 people or 4 people, this time we had three at that time. It was me, Chris, and Jackie. And I always send Chris 200 yards ahead. He always goes the extra mile and goes 500 yards ahead. So we got to get somebody in the middle, and that was Jackie. And then I was at the end. And the idea for that is to safely be isolated while try still having an encounter of some sort. Real slow on their front end, in the middle. And I said, you know what, we're talking our walkies. And I'm like, Jackie, just go catch up with Chris. And I'm just going to use a red light, because that's what I do. I never use a bright light while I'm out there. I use a low red light. And I'll find you guys. And just as I'm getting closer, where their vantage point was on the trail, they were able to see my red light, but they also saw this, what they described as an orb of light that looked like a really old flashlight, not the new LEDs, but like kind of an orangish white, orangish reddish color that was actually on the same level as me. And they're talking to me on the radio. It was like, seriously, it was like a setup for a bad B-rated horror movie when Jackie, keys in and says, "Hey Jay, what's that behind you?" While I'm walking in the dark, and I'm just like, I didn't know how to process that. I'm thinking nothing, darkness. It was pitch dark, and she goes, "There's a light following you," and I'm turning around. I don't see the light, and then Chris keys in. And he's like, "Yeah, I see it too. It's right there." It was like like I said, a bad B-rated horror movie. We were laughing about it after, but it still makes me wonder, um, what else is out there. In 2014, I find these huge footprints that I still can't debunk to this day. Something made them. Did I see what made them? No. They look like human feet. They're huge. They have a wide gait, tightrope fashion, but I didn't see what made them. We can only assume what our truth is out there of what's out there. So I'm thinking, okay, Bigfoot is out here. All right. It's tough to say. It's tough to say back then. I can say it now with confidence, but Bigfoot is out in the Kettle Moraine. Now, what are these lights about? We've been seeing them since 2014, and I really didn't put them in my first documentary, but my second documentary, Beyond the Kettle, Finding J2, does deal a lot with the lights.
I think sorry. When we were talking like last night, we were talking about it's progression. It's the more time you're out in the woods, the this stuff happens to you. I mean, the more time that a person spends in the woods, all this crazy stuff starts. You're starting to see the lights. You pick up EVPs on your thing. You're seeing unexplained systems. You're having stones thrown at you. That's not everyday stuff. To tell people that you're out in the middle of the woods having stones thrown at you is a hard topic to get to somebody, to get through to somebody saying, oh, it's an acorn. And that goes in, that brings me back to, we were talking about Sanjay there, your buddy in the first Finding Jay. And I'd like you to explain to these guys what you guys were doing out there that day. I'm sorry, I might be jumping a little bit of
no, and the thing
back.
is, we can't. This is good. This is kind of a Back to the Future episode. We're going to go yesterday to 8 years ago. Now, after those footprints that I found that catapulted me into World O Bigfoot was February 7th, 2014, and I still was going out, not as much as I am now. Now I'm going out all the time, but back then I'd go out maybe once a month, or maybe twice a month and once a month, and kind of like that. And after that, I continued to go out into the kettle throughout the spring, throughout the summer, getting into the fall, getting to Sanjay's point again. So this is still kind of fresh a little bit. It's not like it's old news or anything. But Sanjay and I met up. We were supposed to go out with Linda that day. It was a Thursday, September 23rd, 2014. Sorry, I'm kind of a guru with dates just because they're locked in there. And we were supposed to all meet up. I think Linda wasn't feeling good or something that day, so she bowed out, and it was just Sanjay. And this is the first time I've talked to Sanjay on line, like Messenger or whatever, but we really never talked or never hung out. But here we are. We met for the first time, took him to my one area that I experienced all these different things. And it was just a nice late afternoon hike, and nice cool weather, not too hot, no mosquitoes, just kind of taking around, nothing big. It's not really getting dark, but it's in between that kind of it's not as light anymore, like that kind of, I want to say twilight. And we're walking around these whole paths and everything. I remember in the beginning, like probably about 20 minutes into the walk, and because I have all this filmed, I was using my crappy digital tape camcorder because I knew it had infrared on it in case we were going to be out there at night. But it was a tape, not like anything.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It came out pretty good, and it is in the first documentary, for everybody who's wondering.
Yeah. So again, yeah. So if you're watching that one scene, the first 20 minutes into it, he's like, Jay, are you sensing a lot of acorns falling? Because he was hearing it. And at that point, I think I've heard it once or twice And I'm thinking this is late September. Yeah, that's what it is. And kind of brushed it off. And as we continued to go down, as a matter of fact, there's something that happens in between it, which I don't, it's in my first film, but we really don't take note of it because as I'm recording, I'm holding the camcorder this way. So it's filming to the left of us. And so we're not looking to the left of us, we're just looking straight. But what I captured was some black anomaly that was within the trees that seemed to be just keeping up with us, but always ahead of us. And then all of a sudden it gets lost behind, some bushes. And then there's a clearing right after that where that would have been. In fact, at that point, I stop and I look and I'm filming. Now I'm filming, but I have no idea why I'm filming there. But that was weird because you really can't determine what it is, right? You can't get a good shot of what Bigfoot is. It's always going to be a blob squatch or it's going to be inconclusive. That's what you have to chalk it up as. But as this hike kept going on, all of a sudden we were hearing those what Sanjay thought were acorns. But what was weird is when you listen for acorns or anything, pine cone, branch, anything falling out of a tree, you're listening for the vertical and down. So maybe my brain was thinking that's what I was hearing, except before we heard what we thought were the acorns, we were hearing it go through the trees, like the tops of the trees, and then land really close to us on the path. So again, we thought, wow, that's weird. An acorn just fell by us. And, we're walking again, maybe another 50, 75 yards. Now one hits right kind of by our feet and it hits another rock by our feet. So we knew that was rock on rock. I'm like, and Sanjay's like, no, he goes, that was a rock. And I'm like, at this point, all of a sudden we kept walking, we're observing, and again, out of the woods. And I can't express on how the terrain is in the Kettle Moraine. Even if we're on a nice walking path, if you're outside of that walking path into the terrain, it is there's no way anything could move through that without making any type of sound because it's not flat. It's not like somebody's up on a higher bridge, above us and trying to lead us and throwing rocks. Wherever we were going, the terrain was always changing. And next, here comes another one right by our feet. And we're like, wow, this is kind of fascinating. I'm still recording. So again, I recorded the whole entire hike, but I just happened to catch the sounds of the rocks coming. So they finally stop after we're observing, after we're staring out in the woods, like, what could that be? And Sanjay goes, well, Bigfoot throws rocks and stones, and I'm still new to this. I'm thinking, yeah, right, whatever. Bigfoot could be out here, but really, because I didn't really hear about the stone throws. Maybe big stones thrown off a cliff, but not little, quarter-sized pebbles or nickel-sized pebbles. And nothing's happening. And I'm like, all right, that's it. I bend down, pick up a rock, nice size rock, and I couldn't hit the side of a barn, but I throw it out there and I get a good knock of a rock on the side of a tree. I'm like, oh yeah, that was all luck, by the way. And Sanjay's like, oh, that was good. That was a good hit. And I'm like, yeah, watch, they're gonna hit me again because I threw the rock. By the time I'm saying that sentence, you hear a barrage of these stones being whipped through the tops of the trees from a distance. I mean, it was like you hear them coming and they landed right by my feet. And here's the weird thing is, as I'm recording, of course, either I'm ducking or moving, so I don't actually catch the pebbles hitting by my feet, but I saw them. I saw them with my eyes. I knew what they were. So again, where did it come from? People say, Jay, somebody's just out there messing with you. Just don't just jump to Bigfoot. A lot of people would say, there's spirits out in the woods throwing rocks. Who knows? I didn't see what threw it. All I'm doing is putting together 2 + 2 + 2 + 2, as I go along. Saw footprints. I heard a monkey type howl. Now I'm having stones thrown at me. And at the end of all that, you hear a little rock clack real close by us. And it's fascinating because after reviewing all that tape, right? After I'm trying to, the stone stopped. I'm still trying to view out there. I'm just kind of zooming in and out. And right when I lift up before I zoom in, this nice big branch right in front of me that I didn't see because maybe I was looking through the viewfinder is pulled down. You don't see what pulls it down. And you would say that, well, maybe a squirrel, a raccoon or something got on it and pulled it down. Just like sometimes if you see a raccoon on a branch, as it's hopping on the branch, you can see the branch go up and down, up and down, up and down. This was a clear pull down and hold. Never went back up. Never saw what it was. And that, I guess, really intrigues me because whatever it was, I believe now, after all these years, that it was standing right there. It would have been hard for me to say that, but yeah, it whatever that was really, if the footprints didn't catapult me, this really catapulted me into that world.
So
Again,
so that whole situation, do you think there was more than one? Do you think did you think it was an operation? Do you think it was put together to where they could get away with what they were getting away with without you finding them? Look at I seen that branch. That branch is 20 feet from you.
Yeah,
At the most.
I mean, if
right
that,
down.
right. So it
It's
would have
right
had to,
there.
it would have had to have been right in front of me, and how it could have moved from way out there throwing the rocks to way up close to when we heard another barrage. At this point, I got, a week prior to that when I was out with Linda, I actually got beamed in the head with a rock at a different location. And so at this point with Sanjay, I'm kind of really cautious. Like maybe I should start coming out here with a goalie's mask and a hard hat, and just get all like, all right, you got to throw rocks. Just don't beam me with it because, getting hit with a rock hurts. But yeah, you're right. It's like something that was that far out, something that was that close to pull the branch down. And as we're standing there, still listening, we hear rock clacks. If you listen to the very end of that clip in my first film, it's a, I can't do it because it's two rocks, but they were clacking. We both heard that, and it was recorded.
It was an amazing experience. And Sanjay, if you guys have never seen it, he's in his gym sneakers and he's got these sweatpants on and he's out for a stroll in the woods and he's getting bombarded by these rocks and he's just sitting there with his arms in the back of his thing and said, "Hey, here comes another one. Hey, well, here comes another one." And it's a funny. I mean, you guys got to see it. And once you do,
I laugh every time I watch it because he's so nonchalant about it, which I'm sure he's had this happen to him before. And again, I never went out with him before. In fact, many times that we went out investigated, a lot of weirdness has always happened around him, which I started calling him a magnet, because there are certain people I do go out with that seem to draw in the the weirdness, and there's other people that nothing ever happens. And again, I never call myself a Bigfooter, a squatcher. I never say I'm going squatching. My thing is I'm always going to go hiking. Now, of course, what does hiking mean to me? I'm going to go out into the woods. I'm going to observe. And if I capture something, great. If not, it was a great stop at Quick Trip. It's just great being out in nature with your friends too. So you got to kind of take it lightly because as long as everybody has been looking for Bigfoot, I don't think we will ever find Bigfoot. However, on the same note, I believe Bigfoot will find us. Thus, the name Finding Jay could have been called Finding Chris, Finding Jimmy, Finding Diane. I just think it's the way our approach is. Now, I'm no expert by any means. There are great researchers out there that studied more, have better equipment, have been doing it for many other, so many more years than I have. But when it comes down to it, I'm not trying to compare what I do versus what Matt Moneymaker does, you know, or any of the other researchers that I know. Everybody's trying their own thing. You know, we're all trying to find the truth of what this is. And I would be the first person to say, I have no idea. I believe Bigfoot's out there, but I have no idea what it is. I can come to, my opinion with it, but then the crazy lights happen, right?
Right.
So, and really think about this. Uh, how far back do the light sightings go? And I don't mean just any lights, but now you see if you pull up lights in the woods, you get just tons of videos, and even when YouTube was still kind of fresh and new in the early 2000s, you still never saw anything on that. I always found that odd, but now you're seeing a lot more of them. So if Bigfoot's been around for millennia, and all of a sudden now we're just starting to see lights, is it just a coincidence that these lights happen to be out there with said Bigfoot? Just like Ken Gerhard and I had a good conversation up at a Michigan show we were speaking at. And, we just we're sitting right on the shore of Green Bay up there in Michigan and just chatting. I wanted to know, off the record, what his theory on what Bigfoot is. And, he's a zoologist, so he's kind of a flesh and blood to the ground kind of guy, which they're called apers. A lot of apers out there. And that's how he started out. Bigfoot was out there. It was just a flesh and blood ape that we haven't caught up with yet. But everything that I've seen, and we're even talking silhouettes. This is in my first film too, to where it was in winter in 2017 in January, and me and Mary Marshall doing a stakeout on top of a 300-foot kettle, and it was at night, and there was snow on the ground, not a full moon, but a little ambient light to really light up the woods, so you could see without light in the woods like an animal. It was great. Every tree, every branch. So we're sitting up there. She's looking over. We find this 45-foot long like oak branch, just kind of boom, sitting right on the side of the kettle. So we're like, we're gonna stake out here. So I straddle one end. She's down for me and sitting just like I am on the other end. And she's looking over my left shoulder. I'm looking over her right. We're not really even into the investigating part of it yet, or the observing. I'm just getting set down. It's cold, and over her right shoulder, I see the tree, and I see many trees, right? And all of a sudden I'm looking and I see this, what looks like an oversized, gangly chimpanzee. But the weird thing is it was almost like not quite on its butt, but it was almost like on all fours, close to, like he's sitting on his haunches a little bit like that. And I'm looking at this, and it's not making sense, because that's how I'm seeing it, whether it's pareidolia or whatnot. And I'm looking at this, and all of a sudden, the thing moves behind the tree and brush that was in front of it. But you never see any movement of what I was looking at. It was like a statue, and it just was being pulled like it was on a, on a cart with wheels.
Like a movie cart.
It was the weirdest thing that I've seen. So again, we're going back to, the apers, just a flesh and blood creature. I've never seen anything move the way I've seen move. And again, it's what I saw, not what I saw on YouTube videos or other documentaries or anybody showing me anything. This is what Jay saw. And I can only base what my truth is of what I see out in the kettle. So.
And that's very important, Jay. It's an IMO. You're giving people your opinion of what you are experiencing in the woods. And the way I look at it, how would I explain it? It's when you first start, you're looking for these guys. You're out in the forest. You're looking. Once you know they exist, and once you find the evidence, people get stuck in that groove where they just keep on looking for them. They're still out there hammering on them trees. They're still doing that.
Right.
What they're not doing is they're not learning. They're not learning their behaviors. They're not learning what they do. They're not learning how they do things, where they hang out, why they hang out in certain areas. And there's so much that you can take in that it'll be a lifetime before anybody ever comes up with it. But I think that's the biggest difference between everybody is you have to give up once you know they exist, give up looking because they'll find you. They're guaranteed if they'll find you. Start learning what they're doing.
Yeah, and
And
100%, I agree with you. There are, like I said, still a lot of aper researchers out there that could run circles around me as far as their knowledge of how they move. There's a few people I won't mention because they're TV celebrities that kind of know it all. And, if we really knew that, we would have, I think we would probably either have one, in our midst or even the best video. People are always like, well, you're out there with a body cam or your camera. How come you can't get a clear picture? Well, you know what? I mean, the only test you can do is go outside in your yard, have somebody throw you a ball and try to capture that in midair as it's coming to you. You're going to get that blurry because it's moving. But now you're trying to do it unexpectedly. You see something, you don't even think of your camera. And if by the time you do, it's going to be blurry. And, but does that mean it's just, flesh and blood ape? And I guess those are the hard things because they could say, we're tracking them. We found their footprints. They're good trackers. They're good outdoorsmen. They're good survivalists. And they are able to track that they're there. So therefore, they've got to be flesh and blood. And I don't want people to get confused when I say that I believe they're more than flesh and blood. I believe they are flesh and blood. They leave prints. They can leave air samples. They can, you can see breaks in trees that defy a lot. But I believe there's something more to what they can do. Excuse me.
mm,
I had to mute that one. I'm drinking my Squatch coffee. It's good, but there is so much more. I believe there's so much more to them because of their special attributes. That doesn't mean that they're. I mean, who knows? Right away, would people say, "So what are you saying? Are they aliens? Are they not from Earth?" I don't know. How is it that we're finding just one print on a trail or in the woods? How is it that those prints that I found in 2014, I found 12 of them, a trackway, followed them. I actually followed them. The last one was on a fallen oak with snow on top, little snow disturbed on the top, no other track. I looked at the clearing, the closest tree where this clearing was about 20 feet away, 25 feet away. So what did it do? Did it just hop and jump that far? That's special. Did it sprout wings and fly away from there, which is creepy? That could have happened. Could they phased in and out, being physical and phasing out of our existence here, or like you would say,
portal,
or a portal behind the veil, like you said.
All right, the veil. That's what I use. I use the veil. Yeah.
So there's, it always gets hard this way because I always talk about other researchers that I respect so much in the field, that they're so set this one way. And I don't understand, how do you not get to think outside what you've, like you said, of what you've learned? And maybe it's because, I always say maybe it's because of my spiritual, background. I'm Bible based. I believe in God. I do everything, by what the Bible is. Jesus died for my sins. I accept him as my Lord and Savior. I am a Bible based man. Does it make me perfect? And I don't proclaim to be perfect, but that's my faith. And if that's my faith, and I'm going to go back to what I read in the Bible, people say, "Oh, it's just a bunch of old people writing this." Well, to me, it's the Holy Bible, and I'm looking as far back as Genesis. I'm looking back to whatever is in the Bible is going to be so important and truthful to me. It's the one truth I can count on with my faith. And if that's the case, I'm not going to nitpick. I can't start reading it going, well, that applies to me, so I'll accept that. That one that was written by old guys, throw it out. It's either all or nothing for me. And the point I'm trying to make is we all know about Noah's Ark. Noah was 950 years old. Oh, the Bible was just exaggerating. Was it? What if, again, going back to, and I'm not just going to say Nephilim, that seems like such an easy way out of the fallen angels meeting with women and creating giants. Who knows? Very possible. It's in the Bible, right? But what if these beings that are here that are flesh and blood, all right, hear me out, I'm going to roll with this, that that have a longevity of life. We all look at it as just a primate that's going to live as old as humans, 80, 90 years old. That's it. Then they're dead. Then they're gone. But what if these beings, these people, I call them Bigfoot people now, actually can live to be almost, Yoda age, 900 years old? If that's the case, they would be able to keep the population, the breeding population down because of the longevity of life. And it's another way for them to learn and to evade humans, because we seem to destroy everything, the man. And the biggest one is if we lived that long in the woods without technology, any technology, would we be able to harness what we're supposed to be able to use, whether it's telekinesis or telepathy, being able to not, maybe move like a levitation. I don't know, but I'm just saying this is just kind of where I go. This is the crazy mind of Jay that thinks outside of the box. That what if they were able to just harness all this, all these different attributes that we should know, but we're blinded or we're stymied by technology. We have everything do it for us. Our rides, being in the heat, phones. I always say planes, trains, automobiles, but
Right. We couldn't survive. I got a friend Jimmy from Florida, and he says this all the time: is, well, we're the ones that couldn't survive without technology, without anything, without fire. We're the ones that we would be gone. The Sasquatch would still be here. They would still remain. So they're the ones who have harvested the earth, whatever the earth gives them.
right.
And you could be right. They could be 950. I think people get stuck in their comfort zone where they feel safe. All right, I'm safe enough saying that Sasquatch is a living, breathing ape that lives in the woods and lives in huts and eats apples and dies in the woods, and I feel safe there. But when I see a light or I did it, my safety zone has gone down. When did that safety zone for you fly out the window when you went past it? When did that all happen? When was that? When did that go down?
A lot of it had to do with the way they moved on all fours. When I saw that in 2017, I was still kind of seeing lights here or there. I didn't know what they were. Didn't know if I could put the connection. I always use this analogy, the dog and the lightning, as a parody, just saying it's night out. There's a thunderstorm. You look out your window, and just as you look out your window to your front yard, lightning flashes and a dog's walking on your lawn. So do you immediately associate every time it lightnings, there's a dog, or the dog is creating the lightning, or was that an amazing coincidence of nature? And that's how I try to approach the kettle. And it's pretty much the same thing, just because I have found evidence of Bigfoot out there. Does that mean that these orbs of light that I'm seeing that I've recorded, they're in my second film, where we have multiple witnesses, does that mean that it is a Bigfoot? Well, when I got to my point, actually, I'm going to say it was the day before my birthday in August of 2020. This is really what put it all together. It's a time that I was out with Karen and Anthony, just doing a night hike out at 10 o'clock at night, pitch dark, beautiful night. And we're all out there. And this is gonna be my second film. You could actually watch it happen and unfold. But we hear a barred owl where we're just kind of sitting observing, and we heard a barred owl. The "Who cooks for you? Who cooks for you?" I always like telling that story. And I was telling them to try to educate them of that's what that was. And within I'm gonna say 20 seconds to 30 seconds later, right to my left, a little around the curve of my from where I was standing, I hear this weird owl call, but it sounded like a human made it. I was like, holy crap. I wasn't even thinking of Bigfoot. I'm thinking, I got my flare, I got my thermal. I took a couple steps forward and looked because I wanted to see, what do you fear most out in the woods? It's not Bigfoot, Dogman, not even, it's not even cougars, bobcat, or whatnot. It's people. It's the human factor. You don't know what they're up to, their intentions. What are we doing out there? What are they doing out there? You don't know. And I aim to look, and I catch this thermal image that's behind a tree. And after doing a study afterwards on all that, we determined it wasn't a person or an animal just because of the distance, the height. We did all that. And whatever it was, it looked like a peeker to me. It looked like some head was peeking out, looking at me, looking at my thermal, and then trying to hide again. It's like, kind of like, can he see me? Can he not see me? And just as that happened, Karen and Anthony come up behind me, and they don't know what I'm looking at, though. And right in front of us, this orb, right in front of us, not behind trees, not out in the distance, not the skyline, in front of us, this orb comes right from where the last of the peaker was, goes across us, and just as it goes out of sight, we hear this loud crash through the woods. So it all kind of came. This is how Jay's mind works. All right, solid. Is it a Bigfoot? It just turned into a ball of light. It flew to evade us and became physical again. I'm like, what the heck? And this is the whole time where I'm starting to read Ron Moorhead's The Quantum Bigfoot, which is my favorite Bigfoot book. Again, maybe it's based on my faith of what I believe, but there is something to at least how Ron explains it, is about frequencies. And you can come down this rabbit hole and join what they call us woo people, but there's a lot of truth to what's going out there. But at that point, Chris, that's about when I began to put the lights, Bigfoot, together. So the cryptid, the paranormal together, not separately anymore. And so that's kind of where I'm at today.
So that brings you into to beyond the kettle. Obviously, beyond the kettle means beyond what you would normally think is going on out there.
Absolutely. Like I said, the last time I brought an EMF meter out there with me was probably 2014. And now I'm right back into what is it, and a lot of people are going to tell me that they're going to be separate. They're going to say, first of all, Jay, it's a creature. And I'm like, no, it's not a creature. It's a person. If I always say, if you want to go out and get in a gorilla, then yeah, knock on trees and howl. And I'm not going to knock anybody that does that because I started out doing that. However, I've shifted to more of a respect for the woods itself. I'm not saying just for the Bigfoot people, but I'm saying the woods itself. I'm going into somebody else's home. I'm not going to disturb it. I'm not a Buddhist monk to where if I see a spider, crawling around on the ground, I'm going to step on it in the woods just because I don't like it. I let live while I'm out there. And that's what I'm going to constantly keep doing. It's going to be going on 9 years of doing it. And I don't care if it's 9 years or 6 months or 25 years. It's what you learn, and I believe it's how you evolve into the next step of what you're trying to do. Right? I mean, are we trying to go out there and capture this and prove it to the world and become that famous guy? Absolutely not. I'm not. I could tell you that I wanted to be. I wanted to capture the proof. But now it's more, like I said, that respect that I have for the woods and for the Bigfoot people. People say, if you ever caught a good glimpse of it, would you then share it, or let people know, call the news or whatever? And the answer would be no. I mean, it really wouldn't. As much as we all love money and you try to, screw the next guy for money and try to get ahead in the game and, keep climbing that social media ladder and become these guys, I'm not. I always liked flying below the radar. And I know putting out documentaries didn't put me below the radar. But it's still that personal Jay in the woods. And if I ever found anything like that, I go out there and talk to them. I go out and I'll do my hand signals, tell them who's here, who I'm with. I always tell them I'm not going to expose you or where you're at. Usually by the time I'm done waving and talking to the woods, at the end, I'm always hearing at least one raccoon laughing at me. You're like, Jay, you're nuts. You're just talking to the woods. A couple possums out there too, razzing me. But I feel like I am talking to the woods, and whether anything happens or not, it's irrelevant to me. I know they're there, and it's more of that time. I'd love to make contact. And I know that I hear myself say it and it sounds crazy, but I think I'm that deeply involved into the woods to where that's what I would want. Now, am I ready? People, always say, what are you going to do when you see it face to face? And I said, I don't know, maybe just fall on the ground, get into a fetal position, grab a blanket and, call for my mom. I don't know, but being realistic, we really don't know how we're going to react. And I want to kind of stay pure that way. So I don't want to have expectations, So, I mean, who knows? It's, I keep feeling like if there was a Bigfoot close to me, that close, to pull that tree down, who knows on how close they've been standing every time I go out there. And I actually think they are. A lot of times people will say, Jay, there's not a Bigfoot behind every tree. All right, I get that. Especially if they're 950 years old and there's just clans of them, maybe when I'm out in some of these areas, maybe they're at Walmart at the time or at the gas station that night, and I'm over here, near their tree house. I'm just trying to, kind of spread out areas. And that's why there's, it's not like there's a sighting every time I go out there. In fact, I want to say, I was going to say 4 out of 5 times I go out there, nothing happens. But there is, on that 5th one, something does, but it's still inconclusive. It doesn't bring me closer to that contact, or it very well could be their means of contact, or, it might take years for them to finally say, all right, Jay, this is it. Now here I am. Let's have a cup of coffee together.
Well, that's awesome. I applaud you, because not a lot of people would even say that, live, but I'm right there with you 100%. There, 100%. Everything you just said, 100%. And I have friends of mine that I've just been meeting throughout these last couple of years once this all started going down, and they're 100% exactly what you said too. And you're not alone out there, and there's a lot of people that are approaching it now these days this way, and there's nothing wrong with it. Science can be used. This is that RF meter I was telling you about.
Oh yeah.
Now it measures electromagnetic radiation. We're getting hit with enough electromagnetic radiation to cook you in a Faraday box out in the middle of the woods while rocks are being thrown at us. We can explain The radiation part, because we have a meter. We can't explain why the rocks are coming in at us at the same time because we can't see what's throwing the rocks at. We can only assume because we're in the Bigfoot world out there that it's a Bigfoot, like you said before. It could be an alien. It could be spirits. We're catching EVPs all the time now. And I mean, it's just, it could be the energy in the areas. Who knows? But we need to work together. We need to get past our safety zones and maybe just bump it up a little bit and just talk it out. Maybe we could learn. Like you said, there's a lot of guys that still do flesh and blood that are way better tracker than I am. Way better knowing how to find them than I am. But will they take the time to learn what they do once they find them, where they live, what they do? I don't know.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. It's kind of just how this world is right now. If you don't believe with my views, I'm going to scream at you and say you're wrong. And the thing is, I look at that of saying, I don't do it your way, and I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just not the way I do it. And I find my truth by trial and error. In fact, like you were saying about the RF meter, it's something I haven't tried yet that I'm going to try. And it's just by us talking about it and being able to say, hey, you know what, if it's happening in your area this way and it's happening in my area this way, yeah, it answers a question of validation possibly, even though we still don't know what it is. That's, I guess that's kind of the exciting journey of it all.
It's really good. I got one more question for Jay on my end, and then I'm going to open up questions for him for everybody in the chat. And I just want to say thank you. That hour already blew by in like a blink of an eye.
I told you I can't stop talking.
It's all right. It's all good. I'm sure you've heard this question before, but when did you think it was safe enough to bring your family out there into the woods looking for these guys?
I was bringing Blake out, my son, when he was about 4, maybe almost 5, and he wanted to do everything with me. It was like father, like son. I think it was just the idea of me bringing him out with me into the woods, whether he believed in his little 5-year-old mind at the time. But we'd go out during the day. I'd never go out at night. And it's just fun to show my son at that time and to show him about nature and everything that we could find or whatever. Of course, I got backlash from that because people said, Jay, you're a terrible father. You're bringing your kids out as Bigfoot bait. What kind of father are you? I mean, seriously, I was getting a lot of these comments of that. And it's like, no, you know what? If a dad was just going to go out and teach him, how to build a fire or make a tent or whatever, that's okay. I mean, it's the same thing. We're just kind of walking, observing, and having father-son time. And so Blake's been kind of involved in this for, like I said, before he was 5. He's going to be 15, so almost 10 years he's been involved in this. And of course, my daughter was just born into it. So when she was born, it was like dad and Bigfoot. That's what it was. Dad's a hiker. That's what he does. And so I was able to bring her out. And again, probably around 4 years old. And again, I'm watching him like, I was going to say, what do they say? Mother goose, father hen. Yeah. Okay. So, that's how I watch him, but I want him to experience the kettle nice and everything like that. But by the same token, this one time when I took my daughter out and she was almost 5 at the time, and this is in my first documentary, is where I saw one of the sightings during the day that still scares me because it was February. It wasn't cold, but the path was frozen snow, so it was kind of slippery. And she's just skating around me, kind of like ice skating, not really knowing what's going on. We're actually 150 yards away from my car. And as I'm standing out there observing, I'm looking straight at my 12. And all of a sudden, something at my 2 caught my eye through these finely cut pines about 80 yards. That's the distance I could see to the other side. And something catches my eye, and I look over, and it looked like a solid. I can't tell if it was a body, a head, but it was auburn, and it was a different color than the rest of the brown February colors out there. And then all of a sudden, the thing just moved like a blur. It left an auburn blur. And at that point, that's what I'm saying is, was this, flesh and blood ape that could move lightning speed like that? That just seems something more special attribute or supernatural. And at that point is when it moves so fast that I don't care if I had two AKs on me like Rambo. If this thing moved that fast, it could take my daughter, which was right next to me. And that's the part that freaked me out as a father. So, I was able to observe a little bit. I was holding her hand and kept her close, but we were still backing up towards the way of the car. And we got into the car and we left. And I didn't go out into the kettle myself for a month after that because I had to process that fear or the unknown. And no, my kids did not come out with me after that for a while. And then it gets back to just back to nature again, and just, you fall on a bike, you get back up. Is it going to be dangerous? Well, anything could be dangerous. They could walk out on the driveway onto the street and get, God forbid, you have a rogue car that's going to speed by or something. There's dangers everywhere. And I don't want them to fear the woods because dad got freaked out about something that was still inconclusive. So, it's been, a build up again of, getting the family out there. Actually, it's usually just my kids and my oldest daughter. She's 32. She'll come out with me too. So it's pretty much my whole family that I'm bringing out there that are really kind of vested with it. The kids are getting older now. They're more interested in, well, Blake's going to be 15, girls, school, all that stuff. And gaming and whatever. But when we do get out there, he does very much enjoy being out there.
Nice. That's great. All right, here's the first question from Boots on the Ground, Barb. Do you go out at all seasons, and when do you have the most activity?
Great question. I go out, I was going to say 365 days a year, no, or 52 weeks a year, no, because there's birthdays and holidays in there. But I do get out weekly all year round. My favorite time to get out there is usually late fall and into winter because I love tracking. It doesn't matter what it is. I just love tracking. And even if it gets to be -6 degrees out there in January, I get out there. The most activity, and here's the weird thing, because people ask me that question a lot, and I've had great activity in the coldest parts of January. And definitely February. I've mentioned a few Februaries. Definitely a lot of springs with some lights and some vocals. Summer with the mosquitoes and the hot sweat and everything. We've experienced spells and, again, throwing objects and things that were on the path that just moved lightning fast away from us. So it seems like it's all seasons, and so it's kind of what's the most. It's weird because I've tried to dissect all of them, and I seem to have a bunch in each season. So to me, I don't think they move or migrate. I just don't believe that. That's, again, my opinion, my belief. I don't think they're just animals migrating to where it's warmer and where the food is, So, so to answer your question, long-winded, Edith Bunker, as I was just going to say, is all seasons. I have a lot of different sightings activity.
All right, my friend Jimmy Barr. Jay, how was it working with Steve Coles?
Mr. Coles is the best. I love working with Steve. Because he does detective work for a living. So he can also apply this detective work for a living to Sasquatch. And I know for a fact he came into Bigfoot as a skeptic. So to take someone who's going to be a skeptic and a detective to come up and say, yes, that Sasquatch is out there. It is real. And I've actually, he's really good with audio and video correction. So he's kind of my go-to guy if I want to enhance something, which he's done in my second film. And so definitely working with him on that. It's a trip. And I love that we can just go back and forth because he would consider himself an aper. And that's great. And I respect that. And he looks at me going, Jay, you were an aper once too, but now you're talking about Sasquatch people. So it's kind of like it's my evolving, through my journey. Not
Right.
Steve's, but yeah, no, Steve's great to work with. Love Steve.
That's a great answer, and that's great that you get along. Why there should be no reason not to.
Exactly.
Jay, how close do you think you've been to one?
I'm going to say 10 feet. And the reason why I'm going to say 10 feet is because this was in 2018 in June 9th. And I remember this, I was out with Chris and it was just, getting beyond the dark. It was already raining, but it wasn't raining anymore. So we're in there. It was a dark kettle. You can hear the rain falls around you off the leaves, everywhere around you. And I'm out there with Chris. And like I said, it was already dark. And we're standing on this 20-foot wide path on a 300-foot kettle on each side. So, just imagine, you're at the top of that. And he likes to knock. I don't stop anybody from what they want to do, And he goes, hey, can I give a few knocks? And I'm like, sure. And he walks over about 12 feet from me off the path a little bit, right on the edge of where the kettle is, finds a tree, bam, bam. And it's already dark, but I close my eyes. I don't know why. It just helped me concentrate in the dark. So I close my eyes and I'm hearing the rainfall all the way around 360 degrees around me. And from the back of me onto my right, I hear a footstep. And then right behind me, and then right to my left, and it stopped. So literally what I'm hearing, I hear, and it just stopped right behind me. Now, I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. I was petrified. I could have been a petrified tree. And I mean, not like scared to where I was going to lose bodily functions. I couldn't move. It was that feeling of, have you ever, as a kid, and it still could happen as an adult, you're down in your basement and you turn off your light in the basement and you're going up your stairs and you have the darkness behind you from the basement, knowing that something had come up those stairs and get you. A lot of people experience that. And that's kind of the fear I felt, but I couldn't move. And I'm like, oh my God, all right. And I know Chris is right there. And again, you're hearing the rain falls around you. So, and again, I couldn't say anything to Chris. So what seemed like 10 minutes was actually, by my audio recording, was only 120 seconds. It seemed like forever. Somehow or another, I was able to break free, and I had my thermal. It was actually Seek thermal that connected on my iPhone. And I already had that ready to go. And instead of blasting a light right there, I turn around and pull up the thermal. And there's nothing there. And I never heard it leave either. That's the weird thing, is I could hear it from my far right. I don't know how far to my right I heard the first step. And the second step was almost directly behind me. And the third step was just over to the left of, so I felt like it was just standing behind me. So again, long answer, I believe 10 feet, 15 feet, if that, because the path was only so big and it would happen on the path. So that's how close I believe I was to one of them.
Well, it's pretty close.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to have one more question and then we're going to end it. The show for tonight. Been a hell of a show.
Yeah. Big L.
You know of the Godfather himself?
I know the Godfather.
That means you don't have to swim with the fishes.
I don't have to swim with the fishes. But you believe you had a juvenile activity around you. I believe that the rock throwing was a way of either the playful contact, I would believe. Even the pull down of the branch or just staying out of eyesight during that hike back in 2014, without really being able to actually see said, Bigfoot person that's out there, whether young or old. I would be able to tell if I had to go by activity. Definitely, it would have been the rock throwing, and we've had some branches being thrown through the trees too, and possibly even the thermal that I caught in 2020 that was giving me a really bad imitation of an owl that I caught on thermal. That's in my second film. So I definitely believe there's definitely the playful ones. I think the serious ones are going to be like, the 10-point deer out there that you see out there that are like, well, they've been out there a long time. They're smart. And I think that's how the adults would be. The other ones are just playing with you, I believe.
Yeah, that's like I was telling you earlier. That's my favorite part of the whole Bigfoot Sasquatch thing is having the stones thrown at you because it takes everything out of the equation. It's either human being that's 30 feet away from you, or it's something else with hands that has great aim. And
Yeah.
I've had multiple stones thrown at us, multiple caught them on tape. We've had them from above on a cliff. We were resting one time, sitting on a cliff. It came from above us, right down in front of us all. They just got great aim, and I think it's pretty neat.
See, you think it's neat and fun. You and Sanjay should do that together. So you could be like, here they come again, Chris. And here I am ducking because I didn't want to get beamed in the head with a rock again. Because I'm like, screw this. Nothing's worth this.
You're like, what is it?
Yeah, you're right.
But
I was angry.
I do want to add, when you threw that rock at him and they threw it back at you, the acceleration that came from the rocks that got tossed back at you was much more than when it was first going on. They threw it hard, and they threw it it was like a warning to you not to throw another stone.
Exactly. The other ones were playful, and that last barrage seemed to come pretty darn fast.
Yeah, they came
like,
in
don't do that again. We're playing with you. We can dish it out. We don't take it. Don't throw it back in. Hey, really quick, I did see PJ Arkansas had a question about the whistles. I kind of saw that off to the right.
Yeah.
I do want to answer that because I have heard back in 2014, late 2014, almost 2015, where we were out there and we caught. Actually, it's on my YouTube. It's not in any of my films, but it's in my one of my YouTubes called The Whistle, and it was the most bizarrest thing because it sounded like it almost sounded like a person making it, and we could not find any person around. So this is during the day. We're looking in trees. We're kind of on a cliff, not a cliff, but one of the kettles, and it was winter. So everything was, there was no leaves on trees. So you had a good visual, but the whistle sounded like it was within 5 feet of us, maybe even closer. It was a one-tone whistle. Check it out on my YouTube. And we couldn't find it. It was bizarre.
Yeah, she actually contacted me. I just put out a YouTube short.
Yeah.
And it's the whistle as you were whistling at a hot girl, and they do it perfect. Right between, I forgot what the wind was blowing or something, but it was a blue jay. A blue jay was screeching, but they were using that and she gets the same whistles at her place in Arkansas. So that's why she's curious about the whistles.
Absolutely. I mean, again, did I see a Bigfoot whistle? No, I have not. But again, dog and lightning. Is this just a Bigfoot with all these other amazing coincidences, or do they have a special attribute that they have? I mean, that's the bottom line. I don't have the answer for that. Those are the answers I'm seeking. And it's basically what I tell everybody. I always say there's approximately 8 billion people in the world, and everybody has their own truth. So you need to go out and discover for yourself to find your truth. Don't just listen to me. Don't just watch my documentary. Don't just take what you see on the internet as what's true, what's not. You want to find it? Go out and find it. You will find your truth.
I agree with you 100%. That's awesome. Was there one more? The tree neck feed I sent him. Can you send it to you? Check out. Yeah, I'll do that for you, Jimmy. Wants me to send you some tree knocks. All right, so this is it. This is how you guys win the 2 copies of Finding Jay and then Beyond the Kettle. You have to leave a comment once this video is over, and the number is 822. 822. And then I am going to take all of the numbers and all the people that put the number down, and I'm going to send them to Jay and Jay's son, and they're going to film it, and they're going to draw the winner of the DVDs, and then we will mail them out to you. So remember the number 822. We're going to run this until after Thanksgiving, so it'll have Thanksgiving weekends for people to watch this and hopefully get it into the contest. So I just want to thank Jay for being one hell of a guest. Can't ask for anything my first time back in months. And I really appreciate you taking the time to come back, and I'd love to have you back on the show again and talk some more. We even get to Beyond the Kettle. We never made it through halfway through Finding Jay.
It happens. I think it's me. I think I just, once I get on a roll, you can't stop me. Everything else is just a blur when I get going. But it's only because I'm passionate to talk about this. And again, it's not my passion to tell people that's what it is. I'm passionate of saying this is what I believe. I guess it would be like anything else. So I appreciate you having me on.
It was awesome. It was awesome. I'm going to put you backstage, hang out for a little bit, and I'll see you in a couple minutes.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jay Bachochin. Bachochin, yes. All right. Well, thank you all for joining me tonight. As you can see, my one eye, not too bad. Still a little bloodshot. I don't have a lens in this one, or whichever one it is. But it's doing well, and I appreciate all the prayers and the comments. You guys are the best, and without you, I probably wouldn't be doing this anymore. I would have given up on all this stuff. I almost came to the end of the road, but we're going to pick up the pieces. We got something very, very exciting that we are going to start doing this winter, and we're having our first meeting on it soon, and that'll be put out, and you'll all know about that. I have my last meeting with Bill, the producer from KGRA, tomorrow at 6 p.m. And then we will start doing the radio show after that. So Jay has actually agreed to be my first guest on the show for KGRA. So he'll be my first guest on the radio show. So I'm looking forward to having him back then too. So I really appreciate all you guys, and thank you for coming by. And you know how it goes now. You know what Larry says. Get in the woods, people.